The best gift in life is finding a beautiful problem that you can never solve. And even if you accidentally solve it, if you're so unfortunate to solve it, hopefully it has like plenty of enlightened problem children. Consumerism is like a thing that like is being thrown around, but where does it come from? They throw away things because they hate the things they have. The thing that solves consumerism is quality products. A personalized ad is a wonderful thing. I am scrolling past something that's monetizing the free application that I appreciate using.
You should tell the EU this.
Yes, well, I do, actually. Some people fall in love with solutions, some people fall in love with problems. And I just like fundamentally, I'm a person who appreciates the people who fall in love with problems. But like it's very hard to know who is who because, well, if you don't change anything, they look exactly the same. Disappointed you only have half an Irish pub.
Oh, this set? Well, this is our MVP when we weren't even sure that this would be a thing. Tobi Lütke launched Shopify in 2006. We've been working closely with them for over a decade, and I always enjoy getting together with Tobi, and I always learn a lot. Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay, many places I could start. What's the size of the code base in as much as, how would you kind of vendor stuff, whatever?
I think the sort of core part of Shopify with all the like minor stuff like the identity system and these kind of things is like 20 million lines of code, and then the TypeScript written admin interface is like another, I think 8, 9, 10. It's apparently one of the largest TypeScript applications and definitely the largest Ruby application. So we pushed it into pretty uncharted territories for our tech stacks. It does so much. Like it's like a full fintech business in there with capital and these kind of things and all of what we are doing together. And my company adopts the complexity, the real life messy complexities of the commerce world into itself to then front it with approachable interfaces, things that don't, just making all the pieces fit together. And so that requires a lot of work. So there's like thousands of projects going on at any given time. So going through all of them is work. But we have a good system. We have like a product operations team that prepares for it. We have an internal system that's just for the reviews, which is actually kind of cool.
What does the system do?
So I'm fascinated with companies. I think companies are underappreciated we don't think of that generally. It's like companies are technology themselves. They are technology by which you create. Part of what they create is social acceptance for, people, maybe tens of people, hundreds of people, thousands, 10,000 people, depending, to spend all their day pursuing a mission together. It's like, it's really just like universities exist giving you time that you can use for like, hopefully intellectual inquiry into some topic, and everyone's cool with that. Although if you try to do the same thing, just with your laptop on the internet all day long, has not nearly the same social acceptance, but may also be valuable. And then companies are ones that allow a lot of people together to, try to make pursue a mission or create something hopefully world class. So I think companies are understudied, and also the sort of incentive system behind companies tends to be that there's no absolute need for perfecting them. There's just like, you've got to be better than everyone else. And at some point in many industries, like if you get ahead, it's really, really hard for the others to catch up. And so there's sort of a point equilibrium at which point you just...
Because you're good enough, and so there isn't pressure to get better beyond some point.
Yeah, take an absurd example. I talked with some executives in the gold mining space, right? It's just like really sort of interesting because I'm like, what is your day like? Like the same questions, like it's like much more interesting.
And what is a gold mining executive?
It's just like, my conclusion, which wasn't maybe what he was trying to guide me to, was that is essentially government relations or investor relations. Like if you're, how much is in the ground, it's a capital play. But somehow if the investors like you better, then you get a higher multiple, at which point it behooves you to purchase all the other gold mines really quickly. So I imagine this involves playing golf. That's probably the technology there. So,
is one of the conundrums for you as someone who thinks about companies and organizations a lot, the lack of measurability of R&D, which is probably half of what Shopify spends its money on is R&D. And so if you're running a factory, it's pretty easy to measure the inputs and outputs, and how many widgets are we producing per hour, and what's the labor efficiency and everything like that. It's very measurable. Whereas when you're building software, it's like, I don't know, we put a bunch of engineers on it, and hopefully in like 6 months they have a great product out there in the market. But the intermediate measure is, you can measure like pull requests per engineer per day or whatever, and everyone knows that's like a very broken proxy.
And lots of thoughts on this specifically. I would love to actually know how you think about this too. So traditionally, when you look back in business history about when people got like a little bit scientific about business, or like actually started to improve them, like clearly it all started sort of vibes-based, and then Frederick Taylor came up and brought the wonderful new technology of a stopwatch to the production line and like timed the various steps, and of course produced, this is I think Bethlehem steel, and end of 1800s, and drove massive efficiency gains. And so that's like the hero's journey of business books, right? It's like,
and it's still so much of the corporate culture today, right? It's how org charts tend to be structured. It's how the financial statements are. It's what the kind of business that financial statements are optimized for is kind of a factory.
In a world where almost no company was terribly conscientious, and no company was like metabolized all the value available to them.
Yes.
Someone starting to hill climb some source of efficiency gains, or just like becoming a better company, was like a breathtaking change, right? Like once someone starts hill climbing, everyone has to, or like gets left behind. So that became the story, and it's remarkable to think that that was probably good enough for like probably 80 years or 90 years of like from this point on, right? Like it's like just like
until lean basically, which is kind of the 2.0 of that.
Exactly. So you said so the car industry with exactly Toyota and so on. There's new ideas came on, but they were all around this sort of drive for efficiency. The downside of a drive to efficiency is that it requires you to act on quantifiables, right? Like you can only measure what you can measure schematically. So that's not the entire the space of how to make better companies. Like there's a huge amount of things that are unquantifiable. But taste, like quality is hard to quantify.
Well, not only that, because those are the obvious examples of unquantifiables, but the big one is, I'm curious, like there's a team at Shopify that's doing a great job of their product, and there's a team that's lost and has kind of a woolly direction, and actually their dev tools suck, and so it's very hard for them to make forward progress, and they're thrashing if the lots of keep the lights on work. Just how do you distinguish between the team that's struggling and the team that's executing really well?
Yeah, I think that's, this is why the question, my answer is I should go to, I don't know. Here's what I've found works, is have rituals by which we talk every, at the latest every 8 weeks, right? And so let the teams talk about the progress against the goal. It's like the new, like we have an internal system called GSD, getting shit done. It's the central registry clearinghouse. It's our wiki, it's our feeds and stuff like this, but it also has every project in it. And so it's built around, teams updating everyone else, registering, like, here's something we learned. And so, like, that was step number one. Let's get get the actual state of a business into a legible internal system by which you can reason about it. Where is every project? What are the deadlines? What has changed? And so this is what these reviews are about. So we go, like, this is what we have on the screen. They get a little TL drawer that they can drag images and mockups and everything into, but that's their area. But like all the metrics and all the things are like around the edge on the screen, right in front of everyone, and we can talk about what that and how many people are on a team and this kind of stuff. And giving everyone an opportunity to just talk to me for even if it's only quickly is incredibly valuable. And I just learned tons of things about it. And this is something that's in the calendar, and I don't know, it's exhausting and a lot of work, but I don't know how to do it in any other way, because that is the thing by which people can say, hey, it feels like progress is really well, and here's what we're building, and here's something we learned, what should we do about it?
Is it like people who want to get into running, the Couch to 5K program start with, get off the couch, go walk down the block, go walk down 2 blocks, and things like that? It turns out that from an organizational point of view, having a centralized source where you track all the projects and you list out your goals and you post updates based on it, like that sounds too simple to work in the same way that like getting off the couch is too simple as a step to running a marathon, but it turns out both are true.
I think honestly, it's not a complex idea, and it's extremely valuable for 15 other reasons other than it powering these reviews. But yeah, it's not terribly complex, and it works.
No, we took inspiration from GSD, your system, as we built out ours similarly, and having a centralized internal source of truth for projects that are going on is surprisingly helpful. And it feels like it shouldn't be, but it is.
Yeah. It's funny because again, it's an internal system. Shopify has a culture of building internal software. It's, I tend to point out Shopify itself started out as internal software to power my snowboard store. So it'd be funny to not do this. And so I think fundamentally, like companies are all pretty bad. Like all the companies of today are pretty bad compared to the companies we will have in the future. And I don't know how I would possibly run Shopify without having GSD. And I think there's going to be some productizations of GSD that'll be available to everyone. That's probably going to be renamed 15 times or whatever, or become a category of software that's going to exist. And then everyone's going to be wondering, how the hell did we build software before we had it?
Yes.
And I try to have Shopify live in that particular state a little bit earlier. So,
has your proclivity for developing internal software ever led in just like a really hilariously overbuilding internal software direction?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, all the time.
Like, what's the most ridiculous internally developed piece of software?
You have like a static sort of our internal geocities, like it's like static site hosting, which is like it's the most incredible and Geocity, like it's like a 90s web with all the pros and cons. Yeah, like it sent us down wrong paths. Like it's very often, I say internal tools culture. This is actually a little bit of a dangerous statement. I shouldn't make it like as such. We have a very strong appreciation of good software, and good in the context of we have to use it. Like some software is really good. Like if you like Shopify is really, 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 really good software if you're running like a D2C business or with products. Some people try to stretch it to subscription-based grocery stores, something. Maybe that even works. But we clearly didn't build it with this in mind. And although I appreciate all my customers, I'd rather not anyone use the software if it's bad for them. Yes. Because that's like, I build Shopify to avoid people having to use shitty software, not to add to the pile, right? So sometimes this means, given our scale and our minimum quality bar, that we have to build it ourselves. And in those cases, we do that. Sometimes we build it in where we have no business doing it, and that's where things go sometimes wrong.
Well, what I think is interesting is you think it's important to build your own HR software, and you would recommend people at least think seriously about that. Maybe you can share the worldview there.
I'm not sure I exactly recommend it, but we have ideas about how to do HR in terms of compensation and so on that are just different from what's normally implemented. This is most true in project management software, like, again, GSD. If you use software by others, you have to buy into their vision. Like, some vendors tell you the software can do absolutely everything, and that should
Softwares have a worldview, so you're adopting Workday's worldview.
That's right.
When it comes to your HR, which may or may not be what you want to do.
That's right. And I think that's important to realize, and it's important to use to your advantage. Yes. And I think this is why it's really, really important to buy software. Like the people who buy the software are the people who should use the software in the end, because they have a better view of what needs to be had. So in our case in HRs, we had some things that were not doable with Workday and all the systems, and so we built it ourselves. I mean, this led to a journey that might have gone a little bit too far on how should this be done. This is one of the areas where like probably Shopify is the weirdest bit of software ever made, but
is it something like the internal systems you use will subtly affect the decisions that you make? Everyone's
100%.
Probably been in meetings where it's like, oh, well, we can't do that because the system doesn't support it. And so again, do you want to have a Workday designed compensation system? Probably not. You wouldn't frame it that way. which is why, again, it's important that people think about, what is the vision they want, and does the software support
I'm
it,
toolmaker through and through. The sort of kids in the LAN parties of the 90s that set up the internet sharing for everyone, right? Like when that was still difficult. I'm in tools, toolmaker, infrastructure thinker in my entire life, and I deeply believe in environments that cause people to accomplish bigger and better things than what they even imagined they could have done. Marshall McLuhan says, like, first we make the tools and then they shape us, or something along those lines. I have a terrible memory for exact quotes. But the sentiment is right. And so I think this is powerful and is something I want to channel at every level. Again, I want the people who have a utilitarian problem of, hey, I need an online store, to accidentally catch Shopify because it's the go-to software, but then Shopify to inspire them to build much bigger and better companies than they thought they did, and like elevate their own ambition in what they are building, just like my ambition increased from building snowboard stores to helping millions of businesses be built. And so it's the environment that I think we have a lot more power over. And it's the sort of missing ingredient when people talk about, people talk about incentives shaping companies and then policies shaping companies, right? So those tend to be the two tools. And I think then sort of generally, like if people are really insightful, they talk about culture as well. But it's the environment that's even more powerful than all those things. And it tends to be, as a software company, especially if you feel like you have agency over the tools, that you actually have more power over the tools and therefore the environment than you have over policies. Like, because those can be moving forward by the speed of a deploy. Like a new change to the GSD software is immediately part of environment, where a rollout of a new policy is going to be a consultative town hall and a lot of convincing. So in funny ways, it actually acts as a fast and the most effective way of evolving a company forward.
Having opinionated software that you use to tweak the environment.
That's right.
So the obvious question is, if software shapes us and kind of shapes the actions of organizations, and you should think about what the vision embedded in software is, what is the vision of Shopify for your merchants? I mean, you said one part, which is that they should be more ambitious for their business success, and they can probably be more successful than they might realize. What else?
What I tend to visualize is like, what are the things, if you're sitting with a friend over drinks in an Irish pub, and
I'm with you so far.
And the question is like, hey, you've done an online store, you've done an e-commerce business, you've done a retail business with Shopify. Would you do this again? That the answer to the question is like, hopefully, hell yes, because. And then there comes a list of things that we would like to do. Like amongst those is like, it just makes it easy. Like it allows me to build the business, not feeling like I have like, when you try to paint a painting and you have like mittens on, like it's just like, this is sort of a, where there's perfect vision in your mind, but you can't get it out because the tools or
We've all used software like that.
Yes, exactly. So like another thing is that it keeps me cutting edge, right? Like we are going through an enormous platform shift. Like Shopify predates smartphones, right? Like a software. So we have seen multiple platform shifts, and usually what happens when you study any kind of industry upheaval or like a recession or anything, it's hardest on like the small businesses. The really big businesses get bailed out anyway, and everyone in between has usually the line of credits or whatever capital to make it through.
You're talking about an economic recession.
Economic recession. Yeah. So like something happens in the world. So the small businesses are the ones who are wiped out. The failure rates during recessions is enormous, and that's a huge drag on economies, because like 60 to 80% of all people who work for small businesses.
I think people felt this very viscerally in COVID with restaurants, which were obviously particularly hard hit by COVID. But I think people could see how kind of shallow the balance sheets were, because entire streets turned over with new storefronts. Like it was a very visual representation for people of how fragile a lot of the small businesses are.
Yeah, and like I mean, many places never recovered. It's like it's a very organic process by which an area becomes like sort of have the critical mass of interesting stores that like then has people come there, and that just like this builds up over very, very long periods of time. Entire cities, centers can shift in these times. And so it's a very precarious balance. And they have very tight margins. They often, like, there's so much that makes them fragile by, like, systematically, that at least all their sales disappearing because suddenly most people purchase from their mobile phones that just their website doesn't work on. It's not their job to stay current with these kind of things. So like just like inoculating from all these kind of shifts is a really important part of a business.
So you're talking about some of the disadvantages that small businesses have. I was realizing recently, it actually really hit me when I went to buy something from a very large, famous brand, name redacted to protect the guilty, but very big, very storied. And I was going through the e-commerce experience, and it was horrendous. It was so bad. And I realized that thanks to Shopify, we are now, I don't think it's hyperbole to say, we're living in an inverted world where the very large retailers are worse off in their e-commerce experience. They have, worse systems and lower converting websites than small businesses, which have these like amazing, super snappy, and they're just like more technically performant. If you measure the latency, if you measure the full funnel conversion, everything like that, on any metric by which if you were with your stopwatch and you went from Bethlehem Steel to the internet, and we're kind of measuring things with your stopwatch, the small businesses are better off. So one, I thought that was just interesting that in this case, we have this inversion where on a very tangible technical level, the Rebel Alliance is doing better than the large established companies. But then it made me wonder, there's kind of a question for Shopify where you have succeeded on the small business side. And I know that's probably anathema to you. It's like, oh no, we're just getting started, blah, blah, blah. But you have a very significant fraction of the small business e-commerce market with a very successful product there. And so how do you think about Shopify expansion from here, where you can go international, you can go up market to large companies, you can go into new modalities like agentic commerce, and like there's many vectors of expansion, but it does feel like there's a take-stop moment because step one is deliver a great experience for small businesses.
Yeah, thank you. By the way, me too. I also have purchased from Nike. So
it wasn't Nike, but yeah, those kinds of people.
Yes, that I love this inversion because the inversion is super. This is one of the very few spaces where this is true, right?
Yes, exactly.
And that is exactly what we set out to do, and it's
not true in access to the capital markets or all these other areas.
My fundamental belief is like people should use amazing software that really is like perfectly fit to the problem they are.
You don't bloat.
Exactly, but we can go deeper and deeper and deeper into this space, right? Like so, it's just really, really quick. It's really easy to underestimate the size of, everyone underestimates the size of the internet and everyone underestimates the size of retail. We sit in the intersection of both those things, right? Yeah. Like it's my favorite stat is that the companies, the industry supplying wooden pallets to warehouses is a $60 billion a year industry, right? Like it's just like, that gives you sort of a idea for how large retail actually is, at least directionally. And so what we have done from a company perspective is we were very, very clear that our mission is to make entrepreneurship simpler, and that's where our heart is. Many of our customers have gotten quite big. Like we ended up raising one of our customers to $1 billion of revenue, So there's some of our customers have, like in the top 10 of largest customers, many of them have started on Shopify. The reason why they're still around is because we actually, again, we take this so seriously that we're actually building with them while they grow. Yes. And, it turns out, again, like all these stories of software is for a certain segment of the market are skills issues. And that's exactly what they sounded like when I first heard about it. It's convenience to the company making the software to say we are focused on one segment, and by the way, we're always focused on the richest segment, funnily enough. And we just said, no, we are like starting with SMB, and then some of them grow, and hopefully we build good software, and then we invite the others over. The most common thing that people said with Shopify in the early days was always that this will never work in real life because like in the real world, retailers are messy and just like have all these business rules that we didn't implement. And our opinion where it was always like, well, the real world sounds like a terrible place. We like ours better, and we just invite everyone over. And
well, isn't there also something where like the real world is messy? But we find this with Stripe billing, where people say, oh, everyone's billing system is different, and like the dimensions of their billing that they want to encode and things like that. Therefore, there's a certain size beyond which, Stripe billing will cap out and people need a custom system. And our view is, absolutely, billing is really messy, and it's also hard to test because it involves time travel, right? It's like, what happens if people do a mid-period adjustment, then it needs to be prorated, whatever. Therefore, do you want to be using your homegrown version of this that was developed by some guy who had never built an e-commerce or billing system before and has since left the company, and now it's kind of poorly maintained? Or do you want to buy it from people who have been thinking about this problem space and building a generally abstracted frame? And our Stripe billing now has a time travel engine where you can just move time around to test all these kind of different cases, because obviously you need that. And in Shopify's case, similarly, we've been thinking about inventory management for a very long time, and how you model inventory and all these kind of things. And so I feel like it's funny that people sometimes say, oh, this will never work at the large end because our needs are super complex. Therefore, we should be using a piece of software that only has one user and is poorly maintained by, one tiny corner of the company.
Yeah, that's right. I think, look, when I first started programming in my apprenticeship, my meister told me that in the software world, you have about 2 years time anytime you start an important piece of software to try to nail the problem domain, because afterwards it just magically, like, someone puts them in the code base and you're never going to change a thing.
Yes.
And that's the state of it, like software in the 90s. Frankly, just the way the software works, like everything that got to scale was like finished in the 90s with cement in it, and then sold in the 2000s. And in a lot of decision makers' life, that was the time when software adoption really started, and their priors are loaded up with software that corresponds to roughly what what Jürgen back then was telling me. Now we've gotten a lot smarter about building software. We have CI and automated testing in general, and we know how to build software in a way. We're by no means perfect at it, and we don't even know how to measure it, as we talked about earlier. But like state of art has increased significantly, and we make better software, and that's a completely different thing than what people are comparing it again. But it's hard to tell them, right? Like it's, the first 80% of every e-commerce business are the same. It's like you need a checkout, you need credit cards, of course, and you're taking credit cards for us. And, you need the hosting and the checkout and all this kind of things, and an admin interface. So it's the last 20% that are actually quite unique. And they exist in a particular, very predictable problem domain. Like, what does the website look like? It's like what my brand looks like. And also business rules. Like we have over time, just like your time traveling backtest system, figured out where do we allow programming or programming-enabled extensibility in the system so that these last 20% can uniquely be created for everyone who wants them. And I think that's what it means when I think that's a place you can only get to if people work on the problem, really care. Because like you kind of have to fall in love with a problem to want to look at it from so many sides that at some point you understand it well enough to not solve the problems that people state, but build infrastructure in the form of primitives that can be composed to solve all the problems. And that's a completely different level, but it's what I deeply appreciate. I massively admire it every single time any category gets to this quality of decision-making and infrastructure.
Another thing I enjoy on the software quality side that both Shopify and Stripe sell on, that's just a funny domain to pursue, is peak load, where Stripe sells on just, you can put a lot of transactions through the system at once, and obviously Shopify, similarly, it feels to me that how you displace other e-commerce systems is if you are getting very spiky sales, you can get put 1,000 requests per second through the system, and that's totally fine. And most systems at a technical level can't do that. I guess I find it funny because I think we kind of grew up together kind of expanding the requests per second thresholds, and you guys pushed us pretty well there. But I'm curious, like, where did this come from in e-commerce culture? Because like the marketer is saying, everyone will come to the website and click, buy at the same time. The engineers are like, no, please do not, stop encouraging that. But it's become like a real part of e-commerce culture, like the drops and things like that. Maybe you can fill me in on the drop history, because you
funny.
seem to have started it.
Yeah, like it's really funny. I'm just as amused about this as you are, because it's like
no engineer would ever suggest this.
Right, because it's a very, very strange thing. But it works. There's fantastic businesses built around it. The one that did it for us first is like somewhere in 2010 was a this is called the Chive, which was like some. I mean, it's a website. It's like some community.
Yeah.
And it had like some T-shirt with Bill Murray on it. And that thing, every single time it went on sale, it took Shopify down. It was just like unbelievable. We didn't know the demand level because we just couldn't observe it. It's like upstream, the routers could not send enough traffic. And it's like, first of all, who's a shy? We had to like catch up very quickly. And so it was one of those things where there was a very specific decision moment where we realized, this is obviously Shopify down is the worst possible thing. Mm-hmm. Like this is the entire company exists to never make it so that anyone's down, no less the entire thing. We were like, well, the traditional business thing is like, this is super expensive from a reputation, from money, and we can't even in our business model ever make money back from the Chive, given what the amount of resources we consume. So we clearly need to fire the customer, and we decided, no, absolutely not. We're using this as a gem, and we're going to use them. Like we're going to build the system in such a way that we can deal with this, because this is exactly what good engineering looks like. And that was fortuitous because I think this sort of pattern ended up really sticking. It was like Supreme, which really drove this further. It was streetwear world.
I remember Supreme, and I remember Kylie Jenner. There was like lip kits. I don't really, just that's embedded in my memory from kind of 2013, 2014 Stripe-ish. That was definitely like, that was a board level topic.
Yes, and we had board level discussions, and on our side too. It's actually would be funny to know the diff. We probably sweated exactly the same amounts on both sides. Because obviously we have an incredibly long-standing and I think at this point storied partnership. It's tremendously difficult to synthetically test all the pieces that go into commerce, because it's just like so complex with so many things. There's so many APIs. There's so much we have to, like the shipping to, of course, all the payments. And payments is like, depending on the mix of bins, it's like a different profile on Lord, right? Kylie Jenner, like the store, had a lot more debit cards, and that just kind of exercised different parts of the infrastructure. And so anyway, these kind of things you find out, and on our side, we just no sin was forgiven. Like every single sin was revealed and found us to be wanting very publicly. So,
was there anything particularly technically hard to scale?
Well, I mean, so if you open a book on databases, like sort of page, probably chapter 1 is like an example of how a transaction works is like, I mean, moving money on a ledger or moving an item out of inventory and into an order, right? Like
that's the textbook definition of transactionality.
Like 2 textbook definitions in a row. So you are fundamentally have to serialize at those points. This is like the lock contention moment. There's architectures which we employ that like you can get around this. There's like pools of products, like we take out products out of an integer into like a striped thing, and like there's all sorts of things that do, and then try to refill this as fast as possible. But the point is that you really deal with lock contention, and lock contention is difficult. It's very, very hard to scale if everyone at the same time wants to decrement an integer in the database transactionally. Then also the transaction involves having to go to interchange and move money.
I was reading some histories of Oracle recently, but I think it's kind of interesting because proprietary databases were the leading databases. Like the LAMP stack only really took over in the 2000s, but in the 1990s, if you were like building a thing, you actually needed to go buy your database, and there was these proprietary database wars in the 70s. And I was wondering, are there lessons for us for the kind of current open source, current AI wars and model wars from the database history? But it was striking talking about kind of the early feature wars of Oracle versus its competitors, and locking was such a big differentiator in those early versions. And like row-level locking.
Row-level locking was a big thing.
But it came in like Oracle 6 or something. Yes, you know what I mean? You would think it's like an Oracle 2 feature, but no. It took them a few revs to get there, and row-level locking was like the bee's knees. And they released it.
Very glad they did. So, this is... .com predates Shopify a little bit, but like, .com tech company creation was like, day one, you send $1 million to Larry to get your Oracle database. And I think, day like 180, you went public or something. It's a very different time from today.
Yes. I mean, I guess we're kind of getting back to that a little bit in AI, where, step one, send $300 billion to Oracle for a data center.
You're a couple days past 180 on your journey to becoming a public company, I have to say, but like...
Yes. Anyway, moving on. I want to talk about agentic commerce. I had a really nice shopping experience recently where I wanted to buy a integrated travel adapter and power brick. And so I did some product research in ChatGPT, and it was really nice. There was no ads getting in the way or anything like that. I actually found a product that I hadn't come across from Momax. It was really good. I think I was telling you.
I have too.
Okay, yeah, I was picturing. And what's the verdict?
It's very good.
It's very good. Okay,
perfect.
Yeah, we'll put a link. And it kind of linked me out, and I purchased, obviously, super easy, one click with Shop Pay and everything like that. And it felt very futuristic to me, both in the product discovery and the completion side of things. But it feels like filling out web forms is not a value-add activity for people. Like when you travel, you probably don't directly book the hotel yourself on the website. You have an assistant who does it or something like that, because choosing the hotel might be desirable for you, but actually filling out the web form is not a value-add activity for you. And so what is your vision for how agentic commerce happens specifically? Because it seems relevant to your interests.
It's relevant to my interests. I mean, it will be extremely valuable, and it will be something that will be done a lot, and might even be like a majority of commerce, or like on the internet. I don't know, but like I think my role in this is going to be like largely infrastructure providing, right? Like this is our job is to keep our all the millions of business of Shopify extremely current, and so what we want to do is make sure that everyone's plugged into the various chat systems, and there's an MCP connected to every Shopify store, and a global catalog that's really nicely presented. So it's we're building software specifically for the OpenAIs and the Claudes and the Perplexities to make it really, really easy for these products to show up and reason about them, and so on, because we think it's really, really important that they can show up. So there's an infrastructure angle in it. But how it's being used. So I think the best way to predict the future in most cases is just frankly, look at what rich people buy for themselves, right? Uber is a wonderful company. It's also extremely predictable because rich people had car service, and so it's figuring out a way to scale that in such a way from cost basis so that everyone can use it. It's just yes, that works. So personal shoppers, right? These are the places where memory and understanding people and personalization are just pay so many dividends and are so clearly also good. It's people have to make so much out of data and advertising. A personalized ad is a wonderful thing, right? If a personal ad that helps, I am scrolling past something that's monetizing the free application that I appreciate using, and
you should tell the EU this.
Yes, well, I do actually, and the fact that it's highly personalized to me means at this moment where this platform monetizes because they're giving me a gift here that I get to use.
It's win-win.
Yeah. It's win-win. Using this moment also that it's now not just a fucking Ford 150 truck, or I don't even know if that's how you say that, but it's I'm not in the market for trucks, right? So instead I see a travel adapter, like the one you sent me, it's just like...
I am your personal shopper, in this case.
But the funny thing is you send me the link, and if I would put that link in ChatGPT, which has my lots of my history, and ask, is that the kind of product that I would appreciate? It would it would just return yes, right? Because it's like it solves the problem in its entirety. It's like a travel adapter, which for any country, to any plug, to any other, all sorts of stuff. Good product, right? I want it.
Okay, so we're getting down the road here. I mean, it feels like step one that's going to happen with agentic commerce is I feel like existing aggregators, if just aggregation is their raison d'etre, then they're going to have a lot of questions that they need to answer, because ChatGPT and the AI apps end up as a new aggregation point. And so it seems to very much benefit the tail. It benefits all the Shopify merchants, just like, we had a new set of content creators emerge on YouTube that effectively compete with kind of TV. They're both just entertainment, and the tail becomes much more powerful when you have over-the-top distribution through YouTube. Similarly, it feels like once you have over-the-top distribution through AI apps, you have a much more powerful position as a tail merchant, because Momax is a tiny brand, but they can just get recommended as the best product. So that's step one that I think happens.
I think a slight modification I would just make to this. I don't think the tail part matters. I think merit matters. It's kind of an important point, because often when you talk a lot about commerce and products, at some point, just because of prior discussions, people are like, yeah, but aren't you just feeding consumerism, right? And so this is sort of like the negative take, right? And again, consumerism is like a thing that is being thrown around, but where does it come from? It comes from people throwing away a lot of things that they probably shouldn't. But they throw away things because they hate the things they have, right? These things don't work. They fall apart. They don't do the thing. They're like cheap, plasticky, this kind of thing. The thing that solves consumerism is quality of products, which you want to keep using, right? Like you want to be excited about this, and you want this travel adapter to last forever and solve it. You never have to think of you literally never have to Google what plug is being used in Singapore, right? And you just know that the thing that you have, if you can deal with everything to everything, so problem solved. And so that's I think that's an important modification on point.
Yeah, I guess implicit in my view is that there's good stuff in the tail, whereas the head has distributional advantages, and so it is more meritocratic to bubble more stuff up from the tail. That is, I think, the reconciliation of those two worldviews. Okay, so that's kind of step one that happens. I think you're getting to step two, which is, it feels like there's a lot of changes potentially that can happen around personalization, about agents actually acting for you. And maybe one thing, I'm curious if you have thoughts on it, it just seems like a lot of search in e-commerce is really bad, where it's keyword-based search still, and you can't do things like, let me know if this becomes available in gray, or what other products do you have like this? And you want some kind of embedding space that thinks about similarity between the products, and no one can do this. So when are we getting better personalization and search? I just want really good search of the products that are out there.
I am obsessing about this now, and we should have been
Tell me
the
the
solution.
secret Shopify roadmap.
Shopify should have solved this earlier and hasn't, and I'm pretty mopey about this. You
guys are okay.
We will. I think we will solve this now. So the thing is that it's a really, really fascinating. I really deeply appreciate it as a field. It's so different. It has its own lore. It's everything is interesting. It's my fundamental opinion. And search has been a wonderful area to actually learn a lot more about the history now. And the fundamental thing is there is a generic bias in search, and a text is king. And frankly, the people who worked in search are much more interested. We're fundamentally more interested in searching through papers than through products. Yeah. And so there's very few of the best people in search in the world. The people who know most have actually ended up working specifically on product search, which is really should be seen as its own completely different domain that just sort of looks like it, but it's really clearly deeper with lots and lots of complex features and so on. So I got to build up over the last year sort of really, 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 really great search team, and exactly look at the embeddings and these kind of things. And it's just the amount of improvements that's just like unexplored is just staggering.
Shouldn't you do search across that? I mean, I find it interesting when Shopify does things broader than the Shopify universe, because like the Shop app can track packages not bought from Shopify merchants, right? Yeah. And so shouldn't you do the search thing across the whole web and not just Shopify?
No, should we?
I think so, because again, the thing that feels like the big opportunity to me is clustering was always so hard to do because all the features were developed manually. And so you had to like go say that the dress is red and everything like that. And it feels like, have you ever used an LLM as just a recommender engine where like I like feeding in, these are all the books that I've read recently. Give me a narrative nonfiction book, that someone who's read all these books might like. And it does extremely well, but you're kind of using the LLM to access its world model. And it feels like now you can have an interesting kind of product world model and access it, but people, like for the people using it, whether a merchant is on Shopify or not is probably an incidental detail that they don't care about.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you're talking about the how, but like the what is the really important thing. I want the LLM to be proactive and just tell me, hey, there's like this outfit would look good on you, and here's a preview, right? Like and just like here's a full cost, and you want it, right? Like this, like it's the personal shopper outreach kind of component, which I think is just like really valuable. And this is not going to be like some kind of like you'll get this from everyone because it's really easy to put together. It's hard to get the data and the embeddings and the sort of understanding about, like we have to figure. It's funny. The most important thing, again, in the AI space is also the unquantifiables. It's the vibes people call it there. It seems like Midjourney specifically is one company that managed to actually scale taste because
they have a very distinct aesthetic in the images they produce.
Yeah, and maybe this is because they drove towards a particular aesthetic that they just sort of kind of they had ownership over, but it's one that's clearly appreciated.
But David is also like deep founder mode type how he operates.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, I mean, it's when something outperforms, it's usually the product of a place that doesn't make decisions by consensus, right? As we know. So, how do we we need to figure out taste in this product sense.
Yes.
And we'll figure this out. Someone's going to figure it out. Maybe everyone's going to figure it out. Maybe it's already figured out in the neurons, and we just don't give enough information for it to reason around taste. And so putting I think it will be very, very vague with personal shopper.
Yeah.
The thing that I think the aggregators still, to just like get back to your point on the aggregation side, there's many reasons why people buy things. I just like lots of things are impulse purchases.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like the things at the next to the checkout counter in the supermarket. I don't think people are gonna use ChatGPT to buy Mars bars or something like or candy or so. Like that's
they
just like
don't do so online,
right? Exactly.
But like, is there an online impulse purchase that is not suited to happening in an AI app?
Interesting question. Nothing comes to mind immediately.
Yeah. I mean, I guess online impulse purchases are like things where you're scrolling through Instagram and it's like, all the COVID stuff. It's the sharpest knife ever developed. I
wonder if
an umbrella that changes color in the rain.
I wonder if also truly impulse. I mean, they sort of feel like impulse purchases, but they tend to be like very few people part with money unless they are like, holy shit, this is the thing I always wanted. Like this is actually usually
it's
the
just
longest.
Tapping into demand that's been there for a long time.
It's sometimes a little bit, the opinion, when you look at log files, you're going to get a very incorrect view of the world. It's very often the longest consideration phases. Like for years, I wanted a travel adapter that can deal with everything to everything. And the fact that it goes in a chat from you or in an Instagram ad doesn't matter. I'll insta purchase it at this point.
Okay, you were just ready to do that. My other purchase I made recently that I really liked is I was going kind of on a long day hike, and if you read the accident reports, there's often people day hiking who get into trouble because people who are going out on a multi-day hike, they have like their tent with them and they're prepared. You know what I mean? And then people go.
It's all a problem with bicycle helmets too, right? Like same issue.
It's a short journey just to the store that gets people in trouble. Yeah. So day hikers, they get in trouble. And so because they think they don't need any preparedness, and then they end up out after dark and a rescue party and everything like that. And so it was like it's called a bivvy, like a little sleeping bag for emergency purposes, and it's made out of the reflective foil And so again, it's if you end up stuck, an emergency foil sleeping bag just so you don't die of exposure, but it folds up to it's like that size, and so you can just stick it in a day pack, and now you are somewhat more prepared for the elements than you were before. I don't know. Do you have a favorite recent purchase?
I like I just really like these. I mean, someone going just like too ridiculously further and to just like almost like products that just celebrate craftsmanship in a way, even in places where it's just like no one else does. Like, it's like I weird example, but like I take all these vitamins in the morning, and like I've bought these like CVS vitamin pill cases at some point just for travel, and then I found on Shopify like this like Japanese perfectly CNC milled, like unbelievably beautiful pill cases. Like it's just like the entire website is just like a love letter to
the most beautiful pill case
to precision engineered, like you like tolerances of sub-millimeters.
What's it made of?
Like metal, which is like absolute like it feels like it feels so. Anyway, whatever. I'm really excited about it. Let's put
put a link in.
Put a link in. I forgot the name, sadly. And now I like gift those things because they're just beautiful.
No, that's cool. How's ShopPay doing? We referenced it there.
ShopPay is awesome. It's that started out this life as a feature called Remember Me, which like is literally the name what was on the checkbox.
We also had a thing that was called Remember Me. That's like the original name for Link.
No way.
Yeah.
That's trippy.
That's very funny.
So which is like, I mean,
it makes sense. They're kind of the same thing. I mean, ShopPay is much broader, but they're similar things.
Yeah. Actually, Shopify feels more narrow. It's like it's on commerce specifically.
Well, you guys do all the shipping tracking.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and so Shop started like Shop. Then I mean, Shop is Shopify's brand for buyers, right? Like so, it's Shopify is what you use to be on Shop. Yeah. And at least this is how we think about it. So there's a Shop app and Shop Pay. So. I mean, it started because it's a ridiculous thing that we asked anyone to fill out their address with their thumbs when you purchase something. That is insane. This was meant to never be a thing because, like in the, I don't know when they came up with HTTP, but there's the 402 error code, payment required, right? Yeah. Like it's like built into the HTTP standard and no one ever implemented it. And so moving money around was supposed to be built into the platform and wasn't. And then credit card forms were like hilariously insecure over the normal web. And when we came up with HTTPS and made it reasonable, I suppose, and when it became good enough, there was all these efforts, Apple Pay, and like I think actually PayPal was around, but then sort of didn't do anything. So there's so many people like doing this, and it's just like, okay, well. Clearly, this is going to be solved soon, but like, might as well like just put a Remember Me thing in there so we can solve this now as almost a polyfill for the future of the internet. And then no one did. I mean, very few people did, and it just sort of didn't happen. And then now ShopPay is like incredible. Super glad to have it. It's like the most converting thing we've ever done.
Yeah, what seems interesting to me about it is I think it's a significant part. It's not the only part, but it's a significant part of the inversion where, again, now the small stores are significantly better off than the large stores online, and that's just a striking.
It's striking, and it's fact. Like it's 16% conversion increase. By it being around, right? Like it's it's a remarkable product now, partly because again it's power of branding. It's purple always, and people learn to trust it and associate it with a store that's like actually like recent and cared for, and doesn't they don't have to. Before they get to checkout, they know they will not have to type in the address of their thumbs, like some kind of heathen from the 90s.
Yes.
You
mentioned personalized advertising and being a big fan of it. It seems to me that there's a real symbiotic relationship between Instagram, where people are kind of scrolling in an aesthetic mood, looking at nice things, and then Shopify stores, where they need customers. And so, especially during the pandemic, there was this huge growth of direct-to-consumer brands who really cracked the Instagram CAC to LTV math, and they were able to grow in a big way there. Then, of course, the Apple ATT changes happened, where for a brief period it got harder. It seems like Meta has mostly solved that. But anyway, I'm just curious, what's the current state of, like, is this worldview I have true that there's a lot of Shopify merchants that have been able to really scale up thanks to personalized direct advertising?
Yeah, 100%. It's a main growth channel for is advertising as on the platform. The Meta platform specifically is just so incredible for this. Like, I think the Meta Shopify alley-oop has created more businesses than any government policy in history.
Yes.
I mean, if you just compare it to television and consumer packaged goods before, the television channel required broadcast, and so the only things you could really advertise were like mass market, high margin products that could afford the advertising.
Washing powder and all
exactly.
This kind of
so it's laundry detergent and toothpaste.
Yeah.
And so the Instagram Shopify is the precise inversion of this. It's like highly meritful products.
It's the first time you can advertise niche products.
Exactly, and the niche products actually doing better. That's the crazy thing. Like, advertising directly snowboards is like impossible there because
Can't
just
take out
like
a billboard for snowboards.
the brand halo of Burton means you can't compete with that. There's intersections for like snowboards only for powder snow on the U.S. West Coast and like in certain environments with this is not the best example, but usually there's like 3 different intersections of something, and it goes back to Kevin Kelly wrote about this in the early 2000s. He's like it's like he wrote an essay of 1,000 true fans, and the internet is about finding your 1,000 true fans, and everything else will happen, and restoring that idea, or bringing this idea into retail, has done a lot of good things, right? Like, it just like created better products, it created this symbiosis, and like Meta allowing you to discover one of those people who has a potential to be one of those 1,000 true fans is an incredibly powerful thing that just like, again, led to enormous good and employment and all these kind of things. So it's a very, very powerful combination. There's all sorts of other ways how people like grow, but this is a very, very large part of everyone's strategy.
You're saying this enables 4K for commerce. There's this like higher resolution, more specialization, as opposed to the blurry generic products.
Yeah, it's exactly it. Find the people who are really interested in, who appreciate the products.
I like that. How is the stablecoin rollout going on Shopify? So, we're obviously doing lots of stablecoin stuff with lots of people, including you guys. But I feel like you guys are one of the biggest bets on stablecoin pay-ins. Everyone should just be able to, use stablecoins as a payment method that we've seen. And so, how's that going?
I'm obviously just like you, a huge fan of the concept of stablecoins. I love the work you're doing there, and congrats on the launch of Turbo. And the internet just needs its own currencies. I think it's important. At least it needs its own infrastructure to move things by internet speeds. And I'm excited for it because, I think a valid criticism of crypto in the past, as exciting as it is, has been that the utilitarian difference between a real US dollar and a US dollar crypto coin is like that the US dollar crypto coin is mostly like, it's sort of like gift certificates to scams. It's like there's not that many things you can actually purchase with it that are of high utility value. It's like, obviously this is, I think,
why the economy was too circular.
It's exactly. It's like most of it was like you purchase other coins with it, that then you might have, hopefully you diamond handed into some kind of upswing, but like it's like that's not usually what happened. And I think that's valid criticism. But I think the most important thing to happen there is we need to expand what can be purchased with stable coins to the things people want to purchase, like outside of like just the sort of insular crypto fintech. But yeah, like we are working hard on getting all Shopify stores to just take stable coins.
What has the merchant response been?
Very positive. Again, because like through like the work that Bridge is doing, we can settle into US dollars directly. So the merchants they've just gained a new ability without having to make a strategic choice to go into a new industry. Like if there's demand for being able to spend stable coins, and they can now sell to everyone who wants to particularly do that. And so it's like, it's totally transparent. And that's a beautiful thing, amortizing R&D over millions of businesses with us centrally, because we can just like build up the system, and everyone gets benefit of it. And so, obviously it's in testing. Like the conversion rates have to not be negatively affected, obviously, by its presence. So there's some we have to make absolutely sure this is the case, and like lots overabundance of caution on every roll that goes into checkout, because it's like the probably it's busiest checkout on the internet basically. So we might not want to reduce conversion rates ever.
Yeah, I think it'll also be interesting to watch the consumer training aspect of it, where like QR codes is always my example of this, where like the tech has existed since the 90s, but it was really only during the pandemic when like we installed the software in people's brains to understand how QR codes work. But there was a moment, and now they're kind of everywhere for everything. And obviously they were in Asia before they're in the US and everything like that. I think there'll be something similar with stablecoins, where they'll be offered at the point of checkout way before people become super familiar with them. But we're probably only a small number of years away from some mass market familiarity.
I think it's going to be very, very natural for people, but also in a way that they will just not think about it. It's like it's a normal thing. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like it's going to be so well tooled up to bridge between these things that it's it's using crypto rails while using the internet, and until you need it out of the internet, it's not like you don't have to bridge anything. So
yes. You've referenced a few times the kind of the stuff Stripe and Shopify are doing together, and we've caught up at various points on, and you even talked at the meta level about the Stripe Shopify relationship, where there's some, I don't know, is it like Apple TSMC or something there, where it's like deep intertwined building in a stable way, but also kind of expanding over time, and no confusion as to who's ultimately the one building the end product versus who's kind of providing some of the underlying infrastructure. But I'm curious what you think has worked well, because a lot of corporate relationships do not last. I mean, I guess if you dated 2012, which I think is accurate, maybe 2011, 2012, like 13 years, it's certainly more tenured than some.
Yeah, and I think it's almost more impressive when you think about it as market cap expansion, right? Like, I mean, we were both very, very
people
small
get greedy.
Company.
Yeah.
Well, also, I mean, we have had a highly functioning, excellent symbiotic partnership, and probably there's like, I mean, how many more digits on the market cap of both companies? Like we've expanded many, many, many times here, many orders of magnitude. And that's pretty rare because, like, again, partnerships, especially in tech is extraordinarily bad at partnerships. It's I mean, it's always treated as a prisoner's dilemma that at some point someone in the company realizes defecting gives you 5 points on the math, and that sounds really, really good with a short-term focus. So everyone must trust each other, and so it's pretty rare, and I think it's cool that we pulled it off. And I appreciate the partnership. It's been really, really fantastic being able to just focus on my space instead of having to, duplicate things that Stripe would always have done better. I think a lot about main quests and side quests, and I have such good, I guess, founder market fit with commerce. I just I really care about this, and I can spend my entire it's one. Karl Popper calls it finding like the best gift in life is finding a beautiful problem that you can never solve. And even if you accidentally solve it, if you're so unfortunate to solve it, hopefully it has plenty of enlightened problem children that you can then tackle, right? So finding one of those is good, and not having to meander into some complete adjacency to support it is actually wonderful.
Yeah, I think there's also something about when you talk about this idea of focus. I think second acts are kind of a bit over-valorized in Silicon Valley somehow, where everyone talks about, we want to do a new AWS is kind of the coolest thing ever, where you do a second thing that is completely unrelated to the first thing, versus NVIDIA is the largest company in the world, and they just started making GPUs in the 90s, and turns out a lot of people want GPUs. And I mean, they did obviously lots of incremental expansion from there, calling them GPUs is doing a disservice. But it's in a very hill-climbing expansion way. I think
they went vertical. I think it's said horizontal. Business books tell you to go horizontal because, again, the chief competency of most businesses ended up being having a stopwatch. It was sort of a management system world, but we are actually in a different world now. It's like this is commoditized. It's like it's easy to access, and probably GPT-5 is better at it than most managers. And it's now actually like, well, what problem do you understand better than what's in the training tokens for GPT-5? And what do you care more, which is a human capacity specifically? And so, like, Jensen just cared more about GPUs and saw more potential in them.
Isn't there a bit of MBA-ism here too, where if one was trying to, when Shopify was 1,000 times smaller, raise money for Shopify, it would just sound ludicrous to say, we're just going to do e-commerce software, and it turns out that's a really big market, and here's our current projection, and here's when it's 1,000 times larger. It's like, get out of here, come on. Whereas if you say, oh, we'll expand to do this, and we'll expand to do that, and we'll build a CRM or whatever, it's easier to justify, expanding into other TAMs.
Like I got rejected from plenty of VCs in 2008 when I went around, and some of them said they would invest, and then it was usually terrible terms with like ratchets or multiples. And I had to move the company to Silicon Valley, which again, I would have if I wouldn't have told me to do it. Like once you tell me to do something, I don't want it anymore. But anyway, so and I caught up with many of the partners later. In one case, we had a really interesting conversation. It's just like he asked me what did we miss back then, and I just like, well, the reason why you didn't invest is like you said, like there's 40,000 online stores in the world right now in 2008, and well, you can get half of them, but that's not actually that big of a business. What we miss is like, well, Shopify itself was a solution to that problem. Like the reason why no one was building online stores is because the friction was so high. It's like, and so it's a little bit of that, right? Like you gotta like, yes, it's not an interesting business plan. The pitch isn't very good, and specifically coming from me.
More.
Coming from me is probably especially bad. But like, it's also kind of, man, the best products in the world come from people just like really, 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 really being deep on something. Like in a programming world, we're all using Cursor, which is basically VS Code. VS Code is Eric Gamma's fourth editor. Right, like it's like he spent his entire life making these things.
Like craftsmanship.
It's like he wrote the design patterns book that many of us read at some point, literally about programming text editors. Right, like so, it's like sometimes you just need to dedicate a career to a field and get deeper into it than anyone else, and celebrate craftsmanship along the way, and kind of try to build the best thing.
But again, it's hard for people to give credit to that idea in a model. Like people are not capable of being sufficiently optimistic about a business that really works. It blows through all their projections.
Yeah. The question is also like we've seen the story so many times that like some step function changes. Like at some point, like maybe with Shop Pay and like all these kind of things with Shopify, it became something very different than what it otherwise sort of what you would have visualized. And I mean, this is in no area more true than in the NVIDIA case, where like, I mean, these CUDA cores, the Tensor cores were around. They were on these cards, which everyone put. They were part of the BOM. And very little used by any of engine. Like Carmack's new engine probably used them for something useful, but they were just there. And CUDA was not even like that was around for 10 years before AlexNet got trained. Like it's an incredible vision to just like doggedly pursue this, because in the future there will be value if you do this. It makes you wonder. I think that's probably true for almost every space. I think every space driven to that level could become so big.
Isn't there something here where more founders should be willing to follow their nose of what's just a good product? Because again, I think that what can happen as companies scale is founders get successful by building good product. And then they hire a bunch of people and finance people and run the planning process and everything like that. And it's like, okay, well, what's the revenue projection for this? And things like that. Whereas actually, like when we built Stripe Atlas for incorporation, there was no amazing projections behind that one day this will be a giant business. It's not a giant business for us by any kind of revenue metric, but we think it's very valuable because people start their business on Stripe and we help them with something foundational of like incorporating the company and get it off the ground. And it all kind of ties together in this very immeasurable, nebulous way. And kind of like you're saying with CUDA, I presume that was hard to justify at that moment in time, but it seemed like the right technical decision. And there's something maybe where founders should be a bit more willing to follow their noses on what is right for the product and right for the user, and it'll all come out in the wash in years down the line.
Yeah, I'm a great believer that if you build things that are of value, then people will figure that out. It's it's very, very hard to keep people away from things that make their lives significantly easier, better or more joyful. I mean, I get the front row seat to this on my platform, right? Like, it's crazy how fast some success stories. One of my favorite things we do is we started making these really sort of nice awards for people when they do hit certain sales milestones. And some of those, when I go travel, I check out who's just got them and just like sometimes deliver them. And Harley does this much more than me. And like it's such a cool thing to like
awesome.
to talk with them. And man, like some of these businesses that hit like 100,000 or million sales are like 18 months old.
Yeah.
It's just like cracked the code with something of and with the most talk about 1,000 true friends. It's like millions. It's like there's an army created because people are just so starved for this like authentic, like unabashed, like something needed to be done. Something was wrong in the world. Something it involved a product not existing, and that product not existing was such a bother to someone that they made it their mission to create it. And then they went through trials and tribulations. Usually, they often documenting the journey.
Yes.
Taking allowing other people to ride shotgun to sort of over time try on their vision of the world, which again is not to change the world, but it's to add the thing that was missing.
Yes.
It's just like it's a makes things 1% better, not like sort of everything is new. And they just agree with that, and they love the authenticity of it. They love that someone that they know have a little bit of a relationship with, like kind of pursued this thing that they think it was worth doing. And then the product comes out and they tell everyone, and then more people buy it. And it's just like there's so much good that comes out of this. And that was all value, which was there for everyone to take, right? Like every product that sells well was a discovery. It's like it was sort of invented, but also kind of discovered. And so but it's that person that did it, and they deserve the economic value that comes to them. It's such everything about this is like it's the best parts of capitalism, all rolled up for everyone to inspect and review. And we get to have a front row seat from data, and front row seat sometimes with giving these sort of celebration artifacts. And anyway, so this is always the greatest thing. Is like just like the people who are using the platforms are actually really inspiring people.
Well, I feel like it must be particularly satisfying for you because there's all these edge case failure modes of capitalism, of rent extraction or oligopoly or regulatory capture, everything like that, and you just have a front row seat to the pure competitive differentiation, people succeeding on the merits, and it's kind of a very pure form.
I mean, I feel like you have that too. It's and it's like. We should like write postcards from to the rest of the world. It's like it is like there's something really to this, like just don't this real world thing, right? Like it's like the one everyone says your product wouldn't work in, like which sounds so dystopian, is like it does really sound quite dystopian. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I just much rather like, hey, just build this whatever world, whatever that is. And invite everyone over, and if it's good and works, and then people will join. Like it's actually that simple. And I think it's better to like live in a world with like not like people going direct, people communicating direct, people being real people. There's very, very rarely is there a PR department or like even there's probably a marketing strategy, but the marketing strategy evolves like based on just like new ideas and organically and. With very few people being highly enabled building products that they care about.
We had Mackenzie from Ambrook on here, which is SaaS for financial infrastructure for farms. But she was saying one of the big trends in agriculture right now is direct-to-consumer stuff, where you're actually transacting directly with your farmer. And I'm sure a lot of them are running on Shopify as well. What have you learned on the Coinbase board?
I never had another job, really. My apprenticeship and mostly learned what not to do as a company, and then sort of had the opportunity to start Shopify, just trying literally the opposite, and that's basically the operating system I've been running on. It's been amazingly successful. So thank you, Siemens. But like it's so hard, especially building it in Canada, like in Ottawa and Toronto. It's funny. I always had this effect of I came to the Valley a lot when I had time and money. I had all these meetings and then talked with people, and they described to me how real companies do these things. And then I went home and tried to implement it. And only years later did I realize very few of the companies describing what they're doing actually did the things that they told me. Everyone gave me sort of an idealized highlight reel, and I compared that to my average. And then I implemented how I think you could do a better job on the stuff that described, and sometimes ended up with good things. And I was very, very happy with this. And then now, obviously, I'm describing when this goes really right. And just as often, this went really wrong. Right? Like, so where just like Shopify ended up being this like sort of lopsided thing that like is like probably ludicrously over-engineered but advanced at certain things, and then like incredibly primitive at things that no one fails usually. Because in a more liquid labor market where more people build companies, the information is just more readily available.
Yeah.
What was awesome was like joining Coinbase as a board, because like it's like here's another founder-run company by an incredible entrepreneur that's like put together, like again, not by committee, but by like a clear desire to build an important company, an important institution, and just like holding it up and seeing like what they were incredibly strong at, compared to like it gave me. I learned so much about my own company, and I could like
have a reference point.
Have a reference point, right? Like so, it's quite a gift. I don't know when is the right time for an successful entrepreneur to join another company. I wouldn't do it too early, but like it eventually becomes quite valuable. And so Coinbase is such a remarkable company. You had Brian on. He's such an incredible entrepreneur.
Very first principles.
And that was a company under brutal attack by the regulators in a way that like very few companies of our time have ever faced. That's like they went through like the government wanted them dead, and pretty much said so. Right, so I learned so much about the posture that Brian took to it. He will never get enough credit for the courage and like the intestinal fortitude he's shown there, because many of the details are internal to the company and the board. But like, God damn it, he's like good. I do not think I could have navigated my company through a similar barrage.
Yeah, Brian strikes me as someone who is very hard to manage up to. That's always the risk for CEOs, is that people are trying to, construct some Potemkin village. And, he was describing the policy work that they were doing, and he was saying, the company's meant to be the good cop, and the trade group will be the bad cop, and then he's being the trade group, and it's like, wait, these are also the good cops. And so he was saying, okay, here's our new bad cop plan. But again, he was just kind of refusing to go along with the things that everyone was serving up to him as the plan.
I think great entrepreneurs are ungovernable, and it's the problems often arise when people somehow manage to figure out how to. I think studying failed companies is actually often more useful than you agree. Yeah, what you find invariably is that the company knew exactly the stuff that was the problem. It's just like somehow CEOs got disconnected from that.
Yeah, it's not so much that I want to study failures. It's that I really want to avoid making the same mistakes that other people have well-intentionally made and like found, that's a blind canyon up there. We should at least be able to make new, exciting mistakes. Rob, the guy here who runs Corp Dev, he's very experienced in it, and he's done hundreds of acquisitions, previously. But it makes him way better as a Corp Dev leader, because it turns out that there's lots of ways for deals to go sideways. And if you just have seen a lot of them before, you can keep tabs on them and be finding ways to steer away from them, things like that. And I think just avoiding the well-trodden mistakes, and if you're going to make mistakes, at least make new mistakes that haven't been discovered yet, is kind of underrated as a strategy.
It's totally underrated, but completely vital, because like you die to 1,000 paper cuts as a company, so like you kind of have to like first avoid like it becoming 1,000, and then second, you will make mistakes, make them original, so there's alpha in it, so that you accrue some additional knowledge that now it's unique to you.
How do you like to be ungovernable? How do you like to avoid being managed up to? Probably can't share all your secrets because part of them are part of the special stuff.
I just like think going direct a lot inside of a company too is like just like I mean this
The tyranny of the org chart and information flowing up, being polished at each step.
Yeah, I'm just like I don't think of like up and down is sort of not the right mental model. It's in and out is good. It's like like certain decisions are best made at the outskirts of a company, closest to the customers, and but I'm a big believer in many decisions have to be brought inwards as well. Like this is why product reviews are like very centralized. It's like a way of efficiently moving information completely independent of org charts. I'm a fan of functionally organized companies. It's the trade-offs. It's like it is significantly harder for executives. It's very unpopular with executives because obviously they just don't own like the entire shebang that they can make all the decisions in, and that requires a lot more collaboration, which feels wrong and feels slow. But like you make vastly better products in functional organizations, at least for Shopify, and that helps. I just like know a lot about the company, like being so many details. Like I try to be like in AI stuff first, so that I can, I always see it as a gift when something new happens. Yeah. Because, especially like I'm very good at quickly figuring out stuff, and then I sit there with knowledge, and I can now like look at who else gets there fast, and those are my future leaders. Like that's a very implicit test.
Oh, that's interesting. You're kind of testing some adaptability or something like that.
Yeah, like the biggest difference between people inside of any company or just like in general in industry is like some people fall in love with solutions, some people fall in love with problems. And I just like fundamentally am a person who appreciates the people who fall in love with problems. It's very hard to distinguish during fairly stable times, right? Like it's very hard to know who is who because well, if you don't change anything, they look exactly the same. I like inducing change in general to suss this out. I don't know.
How do you induce change? That sounds euphemistic.
I don't know, just like literally like that, like do stuff. I think reorgs are sort of a standard way. All reorgs work because reorging is valuable. It doesn't matter what your organization structure is afterwards. It does, but like there's some benefits to any organization structure.
It just shakes things out of the stasis.
Well, and the advantages of any organization structure accrue immediately, where the disadvantages only appear over time. So if you change a lot, you do multiple things. You also like, I think heightening your misalignment with the people you don't want in a company is an enormously important thing. So like if you reorg a lot, so exactly. So if you reorg a lot, you end up the people will select out who don't like that, which is a perfect, like it's probably the sane position to take even. Yeah. If a company thrives under a lot of change and is exposing itself to a lot of change, then it's important that you are clear about that. I think you try to make your company as different from every other company as possible, which is actually, I think, the opposite of what most CEOs optimize for.
And probably most professional management.
Right. I think a lot of people want to make their company as similar as possible to all other companies. But I think to me, that's a lack of diversity, right? Like there should be diversity in companies because there is diversity in people and people need to find a product.
In what ways is Shopify most different to other companies?
I mean, this sort of, the internal tool culture is maybe an example of this. It's quite clearly R&D run in a way that quite a few companies are, but they don't acknowledge, they obscure it. We actually say it and celebrate it and say, we actually are on the opinion at this point that everyone should be able to code, at least sort of since vibe coding is around. This has gone from have to spend all of your teenage years in a dark room cultivating a rare skill to spending a couple of weekends with YouTube, like let's go. Yes. Like this is not a problem anymore.
Speaking of teenage years, I'm always very interested in the on-ramp to entrepreneurship and the on-ramps to programming. And I'm curious, some people decry that programming has gotten harder to on-ramp into, where, the first stuff I built was like janky PHP web pages, but obviously PHP is actually very nice because, you're just writing code directly in the web page and you refresh it, that's the execution environment. And now...
It's a high watermark of our industry.
Well, so is this, and so have we made programming too hard to get into?
Totally.
Okay.
To tell my wonderful board member, David Heinemeier Hansen, like the high watermark of the world of programming, at least web programming, was clearly when we FTP'd a PHP file up and it was instantaneously deployed. How long does it take code to deploy these days? Like this is like all choices now, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, made some choices which are worth making. Maybe we'll do them again.
Yes.
But like there was an immediacy and a visceralness to programming, and that clearly has been lost. So lots of things have gotten incredibly amazing. And I always said, like we used to say that after 2 years, it's like someone puts cement in the code base, no one changed anything. We figured out how to avoid those horrors. I think we have a very mature discipline. We've always, as programmers, I'm an engineer too, we've always had like a identity crisis. We always wanted to be someone else. We have significant science envy. We even attempt to call it computer science. There are some people who do computer science in the machine learning world, so it's a real thing, but clearly that's not. It's a vocational art.
It's not most computer science degrees.
Yeah, and this is also how we eliminated things like aesthetics and beauty and stuff from our code bases, or like from talking about it. They are beautiful code bases. There's beautiful code. It's like this code that like tells a story and clearly communicates what it's there for to everyone who reads it. Ideally, is an artwork of sorts. And so, yes, I think we have regressed. I think we have also advanced, but I think we don't have a clear vision to drive simplicity. And I think I personally really deeply appreciate and have always prioritized hiring electrical engineers into programming roles, just because they just have a better idea for the costs of inefficiency, waste, really. Like you put too many chips on a thing, it's too expensive to manufacture, you will just never sell it. It's not a good product. Where the zero marginal cost of copying software just means all sins are forgiven, and in effect, of course, still runs and does the thing, right? Like so.
You really have to fit the whole system in your head as an electrical engineer.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I think we're immature. We don't know what great is. We leave a lot of this up to people, and therefore the outcomes are so different depending on who's on the project. I mean, again, we are all getting more conscientious about it, and I think we are in a counterswing to the sort of horrors of architecture astronauts that like have caused a lot of damage to, I think, our industry over the last, especially like in the 2010s. So we're getting in a better spot, and then I don't know what AI is, but the interesting thing is I don't even think it's going to end up mattering, because AI is going to solve all technical debt. So it's like maybe all
the prompt engineer, you're right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
same question about on-ramps to entrepreneurship. You know, as a kid, you were selling things to your classmates, and what I observe is a lot of entrepreneurs have the same origin stories where they were entrepreneurial early, either something like that where they had some business in school. Super common one is Patrick did web development, and you know, when you're a kid getting paid thousands of euros to build a website is like infinite money. I didn't know such large amounts of money exist, and obviously to a small business they're like, wow, I'm totally taking advantage of this kid for a mere few thousand euros. And then another common one seems to be drop shipping arbitrage. You know, this whole thing of like buying on AliExpress and selling on eBay or something like that. But you maybe have a window into this with Shopify or something. Do you have a sense of what like if a 13, 14-year-old is listening to this and interested in making money, what are the areas where you think are kind of good to pursue today?
Yeah, I think just these reps are the important thing. I've made the mechanisms change, and there's like entrepreneurship clubs are really like using Shopify a lot, and like it's I love that, and this is one of those areas I would love to go much deeper on, like just because it's like it would be so fun to really build directly for them. The super important thing is just go through life, like understanding that like everything around you is built. You wrote one of my favorite tweets of all time, probably like actually maybe a high watermark on X, like on this topic. Like again,
the World's Museum of Passion Projects.
That's right, and I love that, because it's like if you can teach that to students, it's worth more than most of the entire curriculums of subjects. And so I think the commonality behind entrepreneurs is that very early in life, something happened that told them that the world is dynamic and it changes. Some of us, I had the enormous advantage of living exactly sort of at the time when we went of computers to no computers, like in homes, and like I had one early and lots of my neighbors didn't. So I had the counterfactual there and I was being just absolutely fascinated with them. And then networks came in my teens and internet. So I had a front row seat to a world, like the world around me in the small, sleepy town in Germany was irreconcilable with what was becoming possible. It was so clear that so much would change. And so I think that dissuaded me of sleepwalking through a world. It just made me okay, that's fun. I'm sitting on a piece of information that is everyone around me doesn't believe yet, but is clearly true, and I'm going to bet on. And so I'm going to take reps looking at things around me and figuring out how they could be done better. And that process is, I think, the most valuable process to cultivate as a young adult or teenager. And
so the meta process is more important than the actual domain you choose.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. I think if you spot opportunities, see what you can do with it. It's a really important thing. I think we overemphasize both stories and de-emphasize the process that causes this. It's building the habit of looking at things and thinking about, do I know how to make a better version of this, which you should do anyway. And then we definitely underestimate and celebrate and underlionize
the Beatles' Hamburg days.
We're going to, and acting on this impulse would mean I'm going to spend the next 5 years of my life doing this, and I'm willing to pay what that costs.
And for you, was that just doing a lot of programming as a teenager?
Programming is how I just made things different, and I went to these classical language schools and I was bad at Latin. We started with Latin. I only got English in in eighth grade, hence my accent.
But your Latin accent is excellent.
Yeah, I imagine. Well, no, because no one knows how that actually sounds, and it's definitely not German. so everyone just goes with, Anyway, I just hated doing the vocabulary tests. I was bad at it. So at some point I wrote software for teaching myself, basically similar to, I suppose, what's called spaced repetition now, but
Wow.
And it's there's little basic shell script, right? And it's stupid, but something about making this and then using it made it interesting enough that I did it. And so it's a very clear moment where went from, I think I got a D on a test, which was starting to be problematic. I just A's for the rest of my life, right? And just that is a crazy experience, right? This is a thing that didn't exist, but fits me personally. Maybe my first internal tool. So it changes you.
Exactly. It made you passionate about building your own software.
Yes.
You mentioned spaced repetition. The other interesting, educational topic du jour is mastery learning and the Bloom 2 Sigma effect. How do you put that into practice, with your own kids?
Yeah, so my kids, I have 3 boys, 15, 13, 11. And they go to a school, a boys' school, which we are quite fond of. They're my kids, they're quite nerdy. So it's just
I met them,
yeah. So I love them to bits. Can't wait to go home. It's such a fun time. Everyone should have kids. The particular mechanisms I don't know. It's the most important principle of parity principle I have is everything's interesting. Mm-hmm. This is a sentence you will hear a lot in our household. It's the kids say it. No one is allowed to say they're bad at something. They're only ever allowed to say they are not good at something yet. So that's basically the entire set of principles.
Yes. We're not good at gross margins yet.
Exactly, yes. We choose not to, yes. And making a joke is funny too, right? It's just it's I want them to have those things in their priors because it's really easy to say something is annoying, but it's much, much harder to figure out what you would have to do to make it interesting for yourself. And I think there just isn't anything that is not actually interesting. You spent a long time in banking. It doesn't sound terribly interesting to me initially, but I've learned enough about it that I've read books about double entry accounting and the history thereof. And it's just absolutely fascinating.
Did we recommend the Calamiris book to you? Fragile by Design, which is a history of various countries' banking system.
I'm literally just reading it.
Oh, you are? Okay.
That's so random.
The Canada chapter is particularly good. It's a history of the Canadian banking system.
And very fond of Canada right now. It's just needs a new revision, I think.
Yeah. Well, just I found it interesting how it kind of explains the path dependence of how each country gets to where it is. Speaking of Canada, what's your advice for Mark Carney?
Yeah, it's funny. Our partnership is very storied and layered, and somehow your board members know my prime minister. So that's fun. Look, I love Canada. I live now more in Canada than in Germany for longer. I think it's it's a beautiful project. It's a beautiful implementation of different implementation from the United States or from Europe of classical liberalism. It's very much veered into socialism under Trudeau. He pushed that very, very hard. I am very much hoping that Mark is helping all of Canada to figure out that that's a successful discovery of something that doesn't work, because obviously that kind of push socialism always leads to poverty. It's like
the problem with socialism is eventually you run out of other people's money.
Exactly. And so it's just like, and it doesn't need it because it's such an incredibly, like, I built Canada's largest company now at this point by market cap. As an immigrant, I think the advantage I had as an immigrant is I wasn't sort of aware that we are supposed to, make small plans. So I made big plans, just like, and held everyone accountable to that. And it turns out you can build world-class companies if you do that. There doesn't need to be any kind of inferiority like there. And also just like from first principles, it's just like, first of all, it is attached to like next door to the best consumer market on planet Earth. Until 15 minutes ago, we were good friends, and it has in the ground basically as much like it's number 1, 2, or 3 on every single resource that is of value in the next manufacturing build-up age. So like we should probably get on extracting some of those resources and do something. I think it can be the richest country in the world if it chose so, and it just needs to make a decision that it wants that. And I'm very optimistic about Mark, pushing into that direction, and I hope he's gonna push very, very far, because I think there's no advantage of waiting.
So taking economic growth and GDP growth seriously, which has obviously plateaued somewhat in Canada in recent years, and then being willing to make the potentially controversial policy decisions and kind of changes that are required to actually enable that.
Well, the things that are controversial policy decisions are just like controversial for path dependence, not real. Like it's like people, like Canada has, sounds even crazy to tell people, but has like this incredible heartburn over pipelines, which are like things that go underground next to highways, and it's just like no one knows that there's a pipe. The only thing a pipeline does is you don't need diesel trucks. That's the only thing, and you can save a lot of diesel. It also changes the cost basis, and Canada has all these resources, and they need to somehow get to ports. And so it just like feels like these like tiny little implementation details. It's like as if computer manufacturers would somehow get down on copper cables, right? Like it's a weird thing, and so depoliticizing just like implementation details that professionals can do. It's odd because Canada, for instance, doesn't have its own nuclear power. Like there's like where I live in Ontario, it's like the grid is entirely clean. It's like the Bruce nuclear power plant, which we constantly build more reactors for, which is like every time under budget and before schedule, like 6-7 gigawatts now, and just humming, and then the rest is it's the cleanest grid in the world. And so like the funny thing is it doesn't even need it, because it has all the other stuff too that it could just use, but like we're good at this too. So like I think there's like the blueprint is obvious. What I actually, so my main advice to him, and I is always like I want him to, in fact, ideally talk to you about the Shannon economic zone, because I feel like it's like the blueprint for success in Canada, because I think we can build data centers or spaceports and stuff like this much faster. And my hope is that Canada can build up an economy and a meritful market and so on, which makes it like can get back to doing what Canada does best, which is like succeed by helping America succeed, and just like work together and let's go.
Yeah. And as you say, energy could be a big part of that. You mentioned nuclear. I was thinking about hydro, where obviously Canada has a ton of hydro already. Like you were saying, the 7 gigawatt nuclear power station, but I think Le Grand Riviere is a 7 gigawatt project and could be a lot more. I think there's other phases that were not done.
Absolutely massive. On every single angle you look, it is every single time I learn about a new resource that we will probably need a lot of. If I look, it's like just like there. Like it's just unexploited.
Maybe last question. We have your Daytona car here. What is the draw of motor racing to you?
I mean, I just love it, and it's surprising to me. Honestly, this is one of the weirder.
Sorry, it is or it isn't surprising?
It is surprising to me. So it's like, I love like kind of figuring out my own limitations or propensities. Like it's just like I think it's like it's a game everyone is playing. I think to some degree, maybe less conscientiously. I try on every hobby that anyone I admire gets into because it's like maybe I'm interested in it too. I wouldn't know. Like again, everything's interesting. Motorsports was like not really something I high likelihood or betting average on liking because I didn't even have a driver license after coming to Canada. After my German one expired, and so a couple of friends took me to like went to a track and went out and I just like immediately fell in love with it. It's there's something just incredible, and I love competing against myself. I guess I think that's the thing. I just like I race in races and I don't even try to win. I'm still competing against myself and I see all the other cars as obstacles. So there's just like this beautiful thing about it's technical and you're connected with this like 4 basically playing card size patches of rubber to the ground, and there's only so much grip to get out of them, and like trying to get to like 99.9% of like lateral acceleration or turning, understanding the weight transfers of the cars and all these kind of things, and trying to get to the best lap time you can. And like the difference between that lap time and the theoretical possible lap time is just the, exact report card of all your inadequacies as a driver. And like next lap, you try to do it slightly better and better and better and just hone this craft. It's like just like the immediacy and the adrenaline. It's just like it's just a brilliant thing which I discovered for myself. So started taking it more seriously over a couple of years, and now like did Daytona this year, and hopefully do the big 24-hour.
Which is a 24-hour relay race, right? Like you swap with other drivers.
Yeah, that's right. So one car, 24. It's actually if you watch the Formula One cinema movie that starts at that race, which was also really fun to see. It's like I've done the getting up in the middle of the night, walk exactly down that first scene where Brad Pitt walks like down to the pits, and oddly our pit stall was even exactly the one he went to where like in the movie, and then get in the car and you're very, very tired in the middle of the night. Yeah. So I have to say.
I found out recently they sold sponsorships for the fake F1 teams in that movie and made a lot of money on that.
Brilliant.
It's incredible bit of product placement.
I mean, like if you think about it, Formula One itself is like such a made-up thing, right? Like it's so synthetic. It's like we just decided to create a document, which is a set of rules.
Yes.
And somehow, because that document existed, like 20 teams move cars around planet Earth, which is like also one of the bull cases. Like I don't even believe in AI unemployment to begin with. It's not how things work.
But if you were worried about it,
F1
is a good.
F1 is kind of proving that we can just make up completely incredible pursuits, especially with AI and robotics. We can make it cheaper, and then like let's go.
Yeah, there's a great. I mean, the history of F1 is super interesting. There was a great Colossus podcast on the history of F1, describing basically the Bernie Ecclestone era, which came with the emergence of TV, obviously. And there's even things like the different race schedules were not standardized, and there was like multiple, like not every team would show up to every race or whatever. And so he really kind of harangued everyone into kind of a standardized thing. But then it feels like the modern era, especially with Netflix, I think they very successfully internalized that they're selling an entertainment product.
Yes.
And some people will watch every race every weekend, but like I'm not going to watch every F1 race, but I will watch Drive to Survive. Like that is an appropriate short form amount of F1 for me. And so I think they've actually very savvily internalized that F1 is an entertainment product, and it needs to be kind of consumable in all the appropriate form factors.
And they just gave access to the sort of intrigue and politics and just characters behind it. Like Formula One drivers are crazy people, right? It's a nutty thing to basically drive a billboard around at 350 kilometers an hour. Yes. So like the characters are larger than life and like absolutely like driven. They're most zero-sum competitors you can imagine. Yes. No one's there to just compete against themselves.
And part of how it works, I remember hearing Zach Brown, the McLaren team principal, talk about how Netflix is everywhere in, the paddocks and around and things like that. And he was saying, yes, you're aware that you've like signed a thing that like Netflix microphones will be everywhere, but they're really savvy where they'll have like in a spy movie, they'll have the directional microphones trained on you from like a super far away distance. And you just end up forgetting that like you're on a hot mic your entire day while trying to actually manage a race. And so I think they get authentic content because, yeah, in theory, people know that they're on camera and on a microphone all the time, but you actually just can't live your life that way. You just forget. And so they actually get kind of interesting content.
I completely agree. And it's like the season is long. They do many races. It's actually amazing what they do. Like a very fantastic athletes. They lose like 5-10 pounds. Like in some of these
Singapore
races,
night race where
So it's pretty amazing, and like it's a fantastic sport. I actually love what Netflix did because Liberty Media is one of those companies you kind of have to start. Like Joe Malone, Cable Cowboy is already one of the best.
It's a great book. Yeah.
It's such a great book, and then
he wrote a book. He's like, it's coming out soon, imminently.
I did not know it.
Yeah, he has an autobiography. So
that'll be fireworks.
Yeah, it'll be really good. I agree. Well, look, thank you, Tobi.
This is fun.
This is super fun.
So it's really, really fortuitous that you sort of an Irish pub just popped up in your office.
Exactly. Yeah.